Hello, welcome everybody back to another episode of Energy Unleashed. My name is Suzanne Worthley and I'm here with my partner, Kim Hess. Hey
Hello,
girl,
everybody.
at the
We're
cabin.
at the cabin.
I know you always have such a better backdrop at the cabin, you know.
I know.
It always
Listen,
looks fresh and clean, so
listen to those darn geese, though. They really gave us a little work last weekend.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
cleaning
well,
up after them.
at least we can't complain. In Minnesota, we actually have, nature.
Yeah,
Right? I
right?
mean, we're very fortunate up there. For those of you that may not have listened to us before, Energy Unleashed is usually I'm an energy practitioner and I use a lot of the common themes that are happening in my practice as far as client sessions go. They kind of give me the go ahead to talk about them or their situation in a kind of overall way, anonymous, of course. And I like to do that to share because I think it's very important when I see a theme that seems to be a theme across the board. And so I wanted to bring up one today, Kim, and then we unleash it. We talk with Kim, and this one has been very interestingly common in a couple of ways. It's about PTSD. So we all know post-traumatic stress
Syndrome.
disorder.
Disorder.
And I had a moment there. I didn't want to say disease because that's not right. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I sometimes want to put in post-traumatic COVID disorder.
Oh.
I'm seeing so many people lately in my office, excuse me, coming in really out of sorts in a post-COVID situation. Now, I think this is so interesting because obviously we all know COVID went 2020 and 2021.
hmm
A lot of people were still readjusting in
hmm
21 and 22. And here we are all the way into 24. And now is when I'm seeing it more than I ever did actually on the heels of it. And I think that this is typical for a human. Especially when we had something so bizarre as our lives turning upside down in a 48-hour period, right? I
Yeah.
mean, back then in March of 2020, we were like, one day everything was normal, and the next day we're all wearing masks. I mean, it was crazy, right? I think what happened, in my opinion, and take what resonates, everybody, I think people were so fed up and they wanted to get back to normal that they didn't realize how it affected them in the long term. And I think a lot of people were really wanting to so get back to normal or were fighting getting back to normal. And those two have kind of gone through a transitionary period in many people that I see, friends and family as well, that people have just drastically changed belief systems since that time period. So I want to talk about COVID first, but what I think is so interesting is I've been also having a lot of PTSD vet conversations and or clients lately
Mm,
also.
yeah.
And the similarities are kind of astounding, actually. And so do you feel like you went through anything post-COVID?
Oh, I know, I'm sure I did. I think that going through COVID, um, our lifestyle wasn't so extreme because I wasn't working in an office and had to go home. I wasn't, doing some of the things that people had to go through major transition or change with.
Mhm.
My husband already worked from home,
Right,
so it wasn't a huge shift in how we were living our lifestyle. I think it was more about the social part of our life that relationships have definitely changed with me. Like there's some people that I just don't see very often anymore. Whether
right.
that's because of what they went through or how they're going through things, or if it just going through that quiet time period, I realized I really didn't need that person as much in my life anymore. So
Right,
it's really interesting how I know that there were changes, and especially for me, I think it's more in the relationship social realm.
right.
Our family became really close during that time, or we already were pretty close, and we kept that, which
Right.
was nice. But yeah, I could
Because
see where this could
they were your
really.
core that you still were okay to be with, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
that
I
made a
think
huge
we're very
difference.
similar in that because we're at the age where our kids were not small. I can't even imagine
Mm.
going through that when my kids are small and dealing with having to figure out how to do school online and all of those kinds of things, like you said. And me specifically, I did the opposite of most everybody in that everyone went through stress periods. So I actually got busier.
You
My
did.
Mine was like I got super busy, but I started doing everything via Zoom, which was very different for me in some regards, but a
Mhm.
lot not because I'm a telepath, so I didn't need the body. So my world didn't change, but I'm noticing the social aspect, like you said, did
Mhm.
change. What I see as a practitioner that was very interesting post is the people that actually did their dark shadow work. Meaning, when we got isolated, many people went through their what we would call dark night of the soul, or their dark
Mm.
work, or their shadow work, which is the isolation. When we're in isolation energetically, a lot of people will do one of two things. They will go into that dark night work, well, they will come into alignment with facing their fears, facing the things that haunt them, facing the things they have not resolved energetically, but specifically spiritually, right? And so the people that did their dark night work, I believe, transitioned this easier because they were deciding with choice that I no longer resonate with this person and it's okay. I no
Mhm.
longer need to go out and do that kind of partying or that kind of, work style or whatever it was, because it's okay, because this is my choice and I'm making these belief system changes. And so I think the ownership was different. Now, the people that did not do their dark work were actually, and there's no judgment here, you didn't have to, obviously, no one has
Mhm.
to do anything, but the ones that didn't do the dark night work were more isolated in terms of feeling like, again, two different forms. I'm more victimized. I can't. I'm very small. This is frustrating. This is anger. Or I don't want to be around people anyway, and this is a socially acceptable reason why I don't have to go.
Yeah,
So
not realizing
we
how much they didn't like being around people to
Right?
begin
And
with.
that
Yeah.
is not dark shadow work. Dark
Mhm.
shadow work is going deep into the fact that I actually don't want to be around people and I can own that without having to use the
Mhm.
social acceptable reason of COVID.
Right.
So all of these things are coming to fruition now, two years later, because people don't have the excuse anymore. There's not this thing that says, oh, I can't because of. And
Mhm.
even the strains that are coming out now, gosh, people are still, oh, I got COVID and then I gave COVID to my husband or my wife and my kid. And it's like, yeah, but COVID is a strain of the flu now that's over in the sinus area for, a day and a half.
Yeah.
But yet it's still testing because that's what's happening, right? And so we're trying to hang on to that, thing of, I have COVID still. And so I want to be fear filled, or I don't want to be around you, or I can't do this. So
Mhm.
it's still on the back burner of how we want to use it or not, but it has no oomph behind it. So people are really struggling in terms of how they own their truth. It's
Mhm.
really interesting how they own their truth, and being able to step up to, I really don't want to go out and do that. And I don't have to, without the excuse on the back burner.
Right. So when you're talking about some of your clients and what they're going through, like, is it what are the biggest changes, or what are they really struggling with now that is part of this transition?
Yeah, a lot of people don't like to go into the crowds anymore. A lot of
Mm.
people don't want to be out into mass whatever, whether that's mass, people at like a concert or a
Mhm.
festival or things like that. They're overstimulated. And I think this is again because of the fact that our immune systems were attacked. A lot of our fight or flight went over the top. And a lot of people that didn't do their physical and emotional and mental work to be rebalanced in terms of being able to navigate that stuff is very overwhelming for people still. And
Mhm.
so they also, I see a very common denominator of, they also don't want to be around people. I don't like people. A lot of people are saying that now. I don't like people. And this is a really important thing to understand. We are designed to like people,
Yeah.
meaning we're designed to be a community of one. And yet we have been tricked in a lot of ways into isolation. That also happened to us, tricked into
Mhm.
isolation in terms of separation. And separation is because we're not as strong as a unified force if we're all separated and
Mhm.
isolated, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of the conspiracy of this whole thing. So it is important for us to understand, when I say I don't like people, it might be some homework you want to do.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean
Well,
we have to be out in it all the time, but I don't like
yeah.
people is a little bit of a pretty drastic statement, and I hear it a lot. I
Yeah, going
understand.
going deep really to figure out what that is, but honestly, watching TV and watching, like, some of the violence and murders, and I understand why people are really not liking people, a little bit, but
And
on the other
and I
side
think
of
that's
it,
fair. I think
but on
that's
the
fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is, and because of the divisiveness that's come through, and even just look at politically,
Yeah.
we've divided so extremely that it's, I think people are angry. So the
Mhm.
emotions that are coming, or the emotions that are coming up in this are really, they're real. They don't
Yes.
know what to do with them. And it's coming
Or
from so many different places. You know what I
or
mean?
are they real? And that's okay. So now I want to unleash and
Oh,
dovetail
true.
a little bit. Are they real? Because they're reactive real. And this is where I want to dovetail into the vet thing in terms of I've had a couple clients and then we're up at our cabin, in fact, having a barbecue or a happy hour with a bunch of people. And I saw this beautiful dog, which you're aware of, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a gorgeous dog, and found out it was a service dog for a vet. And I started talking to him about his dog, which led into a whole bunch of other conversation. And I have been thinking a lot about vets lately for some reason. I think that's spirit kind of moving me towards some training there. And so I interacted with this young man for quite a while asking questions. And I think it's the same thing. The parallels are so interesting. I don't like crowds. I don't want to be in front of people. I don't want to go out anymore. I don't want to be introduced back into society. It's very, very, very similar. And I don't like loud noise. I don't like a
Mhm.
lot of stimulation. And then I had one the other day that just didn't even want to be around water, period. I don't want to be around water. I can't do water. Obviously has trauma around water
Hmm.
from whatever situation it was in Afghanistan for him. And so it's understanding that a lot of this is not actually real feels. It's protective think feeling. It's reactive think feeling. And it is, in my opinion, very important for us to get to the true feels. And in my book, that Confident Empath book, I talk a lot about feel versus think feel.
Yep.
And think feel is a reactionary protection feel. I feel anger. I feel I want to flee. I feel I want to do all of these things. I feel, vulnerable. And some of those are real feels, but we want to get down into what is the real core of what's going on.
Hmm.
So in this last couple of weeks in analyzing the PTSD of both of those situations of COVID and of vets, I was seeing how much they actually are all empathing.
Hmm.
And we all empath. But I'm concluding actually in the last couple of days how gigantic our world has become in almost everybody getting shoved into being an empath. Whereas before, most people were just they came in as sort of empathic or not. Now we got bombarded with no skill set of us to protect our energy field. And
Hmm.
we're overstimulated, whether we are post-COVID, whether we're just walking around not thinking of anything, or whether we came back from a horrific war or two. It's all the same stuff. And we're finding that people just are turning so angry because of the bigger picture of the deconstruction.
Hmm.
And this fear of no control is feeding that fear. And we're in an incredibly destructive loop pattern here.
It is destructive. And there's so much disclosure going on with all of this that you almost feel like you're in a movie and you can't shut it off.
Yeah.
Like you're just in this thing that you are really depending on yourself to try and dig in to figure out, does that ring true? Does it not? And taking the time to figure that out, because it's crazy shit right now. I'm sorry, but
But I think what's so difficult, if we would all step back and learn how to have some skill sets of going into neutral before we do this proclamation of, I just don't like people. I hate people.
Mhm,
I don't hate people. I hate the vibrational frequency that their actions are putting forth, and I have no protection against that. That's what that
mhm,
actually means. But
right.
when we project out that concept and that idea of I hate people, that resonant fear and anger goes into the collective tenfold, and we're screwing ourselves. We're just screwing ourselves over and over and over. And that's what the negative agenda is like. Yeah, our job,
Yeah,
It's
right,
like,
right. Because they're pummeling us with this stuff.
yeah, and no matter what we're PTSDing from, it's all the same shit. It's
It
just
is.
all the same stuff
It is.
because we don't feel safe and we don't feel like there's enough of anything. And it absolutely destroys our worth. And so I just was kind of astounded, and that's why I wanted to bring this one forward today, is that I was kind of astounded that they're all the same. And this happens in
Mhm.
life. All religions are basically the same stuff, just twisted up in a million ways.
Oh gosh, yeah.
People are all the same, just twisted up in a million ways. PTSD is all the same, but twisted up in a million ways. It's so interesting to me how patterned this whole thing is, right?
Right. So for the people that are listening to this today or watching this, when you're saying learn the skills, one, you've got that great book out that
Mhm.
really talks about this. And a lot of our podcasts will talk about some of these things too, on how to,
Right.
ground protect yourself. But what do you want people to hear in this going,
Yeah,
like how can they
that's
work on this?
that's part of it. The grounding, meaning I don't want to be around people. That's fine until you transition into better protection. So if you don't want to be around people, at least get outside and get grounded into this planetary frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Get your butt outside into nature, no matter the season or the place, in one shape or form. You can even do it through the window if you can't go outside or in your imagination, but get your physical form into a space and a place of feeling connected to this planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You came here to be a part of this planet, and none of us are doing a very great job at that. And so that grounding, that's why we go up north. That's why we feel good up there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we do that. We're fortunate enough to have a space that's even extra cool for that. So get outside. If you don't like people, start having a relationship with things that aren't people.
Mm-hmm.
Start having a relationship with the trees, the wind, the water, the mushrooms. I don't care what it is that you have a relationship with, that you can actually feel connection with no strings attached. The
Mm-hmm.
PTSD has so many strings attached, especially in programming or belief systems or expectations. And so when we go over here and I can work with the wind, I'm not going to have a condition attached to that. So it's retraining the body to A, be grounded, B, have a friendship of sorts with an energy field that fills you to an extent of love and joy with no condition attached. That's primal step one. Make sure that you're actually here on this planet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Sometimes I'm so here that
Yeah.
I need to stick my head back out because I'm so here.
But I mean, how great, right? And we
Yeah.
can do that in a number of ways. And we can do it with music. We can do it with, a YouTube, watching the waves if I need to do that, whatever. There's a million ways. That is endless in terms of choice and creativity, right?
Mhm.
So, and then I really truly believe, and I've spewed this forever, is that concept of understanding your field, understanding your bubble, your boundary, your actual auric body, and being able to train yourself to discern that's not my stuff. I just walked into fear. I just walked into a memory. And knowing your triggers. And especially for these vets, it's extremely important for me to know my trigger.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is my heart starting to pick up? Oh my God, is the hair on my arm starting to do it? Is my neck starting to tingle? Whatever that trigger is, be very, very aware of your triggers. And if you have a partner, which I was working with a partner of a situation the other day as well, the partner needs to know your triggers as
Oh.
well, in my opinion, so that there's an intimate support system there from a partner that says, oh gosh, he or she is just triggering right now. I'm just going to give this space,
Mhm.
right? And I'm not going to fix it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to be. That's
It's
huge.
yeah, that's so important because I would have been one of the people to say, I'm going to fix that. What do I need to do to make it
Yeah.
better? But I think, over time, you realize like my husband, though, sometimes knows what my triggers are and he'll
Yeah.
poke at it a little bit
Well, yeah, right.
until he knows not to, right? Like the look on my face will be like, all right, I went too far. All right, I got
Stepped
it.
over that boundary. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
right.
and that actually is a more of a personality thing that that many couples, yourself included, have as a kind of like a fun, intimate, backwards
Playful.
way
Yeah.
of, yeah. And that those can be worked through. What I'm talking about is that really deep one where I've lost him or her in terms of they're sucking out of the crowd right now, and I can see my husband or my wife pulling back, and this is a
Hmm.
big deal, and I'm going to give this space or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things I'm finding too in working with some of the spouses of the vet stuff is that no one knows what to do. And I'm scared. I want to let you talk, but I don't know if I want to hear all that. I want to let you say things, but I don't know what to do. There isn't a do, it's just a be. And this is part of the support system, even for the COVID reentry. It isn't that I have to do something for somebody. It's just respecting how they are navigating and standing neutral in that and being able to receive information without feeling like I have to fix. And that's really hard for most people, especially when we're in a codependent relationship of empathing. Empathers always get together with empathers that are like
Mhm.
sucking each other dry, and I'm going to fix you because I actually feel like shit. So this is really, really common. So you want to watch that, learn
Mhm.
neutral. That's a really big step.
Well, it is because if you're not careful as the being the empath and you're the spouse of or listening to, you know, you don't take it on.
Yep.
Listening is one thing, but staying in that neutral, like you talked about, and your protection is really, really important for this. And it's so many different situations in
Yep.
relationships. But
Neutral's
I'm
hard.
really that's so I the comparisons between COVID and PST,
Yeah.
the vets is really fascinating.
Okay, here's another even bigger one to unleash, which was really fascinating for me also in terms of when I am, let's say I am the partner of that vet and I am allowing him or her to start to share.
Hmm.
I get really scared for several reasons. I get scared because I don't want to hear that crap. I mean, that's like horror, right? And then my sympathy and my pity kicks in, and that's not what we want to do. Again, stay neutral. But our tendency is pity and sympathy, which is not a good vibration to hold for that person. But the underlying one that is similar with COVID too, we'll get into that in a second, is actually I am effing scared that I don't know my partner right now. I don't know who he or she really truly is because I don't know what they went through. I really think I knew my partner, and all of a sudden, holy crap, I might not know a huge chunk of who and what they are.
Hmm.
That's terrifying for somebody. And even if my partner went to war before our
Hmm.
so-called relationship, or especially during our relationship and comes back different,
Yeah.
or I'm starting to realize I never knew him or her anyway in a huge way, that's terrifying,
Right.
right?
It
So
is.
align that with COVID. What we found out in COVID is I, in my own way, it's not against my partner, it's against myself, but we also did it with our partners and our friends and our families, was like, holy shit, you're not who I thought you were. You don't believe what I believe. You don't think how I think. You actually are completely different than I thought you were. This astounding talk about disclosure, uncovering of aspects of ourselves that we might not even know who we are is astounding.
Mm.
Are you understanding how crazy this was during that time period? It's like, holy crap, I actually don't even like people. I didn't know I don't like people. Or, gosh, Kim, I didn't know you didn't like people. We're starting to find out all these cracks in the so-called container of who we thought someone was, including ourselves. And that's becoming terrifying for people. And I think that's part of this whole big blow up right now.
Yeah, because the commonality of what you had in your relationship before, that's all broken. You're not doing
Yep.
the same things that you thought you had the same interest and likes and all of the things, and now you don't.
And
What is that?
isolation brings up buried beliefs.
Yeah.
So isolation, whether I'm isolated in war halfway across the continent or whether I'm isolated in the same home or apartment as you, still cracks into, holy crap, I'm starting to remember being five. So this is all happening. Now I'm going to go really big on this. This is all happening for a bigger reason because what's happening is we're collapsing our files
Hmm.
of everything we are and everything we've done and everything we didn't do and everything we could have done and everything we may do and all of those things in our whole energetic file of potentialities is collapsing, meaning I am in an energetic way bringing back every, let's call them tentacle, of an expression of Suzanne in any way, shape, or form. And I'm bringing it back to ownership. We're all doing this right now. It's called collapsing our files. And we're doing it in this individual lifetime, and we're doing it in all of our lifetimes.
Hmm.
And we talk a lot about this in our community Vibe Tribe. And if you're interested in that, you can look online because we teach this stuff really big there. And
Hmm.
it is important to understand we're collapsing timelines, we're collapsing aspects of ourselves, they're fractalizations of who and what we are. And so we're bringing all these back. And that's what a lot of the PTSD is doing or showing up as. And it's terrifying for people because nobody talks about it.
Oh gosh. There's Yeah, think about, where else do you hear about this?
Right?
Nobody talks about it.
The hidden Suzanne of I can really be a total wench when I want to and destroy you even with my eyes. I get to own that
Yeah.
when I'm really got COVID as an excuse that people are idiots right now. We've used so many platforms to project why we want to be that nasty one instead of just going, that's a fractal of what I can be. Not
Hmm.
that I want to be that every day, but I certainly get to own that and I can pull it out when I want to, if I want to, with, by the way, the karma attached to it, the cause and effect of it.
Hmm.
And we're now starting to see the cause and effect karmic wheel going, oh shit, I'm responsible for this now. I
Hmm.
actually did that or said that. Now I have to take responsibility for burning down McDonald's, right? I mean, we're finding out our expression of our truth is also coming with the universal law of cause and effect. So this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Are you seeing how crazy this
Oh
is?
my gosh, it is so big. And I'm thinking about just in my like circle, like thinking about it differently and watching what's happening. It's like it is big,
Yep.
really
And
big.
we don't, the best part about this is universe has no longer given us an excuse. That's why people are freaking out. There's no excuse left
Hmm.
of COVID anymore. My behavior is going to have a karmic return right now.
Hmm.
And there isn't an excuse right now. We
Mm-mm.
can still use, oh, the world's cracking up and everybody's going crazy. But no, we're going crazy because everyone is figuring out, oh crap, I'm responsible for my actions,
Hmm.
right? So it's really, really interesting to me because people are showing sides of them that we never knew. And when I see a side of you, I'm like, I've known you for 20 years and you just did that. I've known you for 20 years and you're going to vote for who? I mean, this ridiculousness of this game that we're playing of division is all part of this process of being able to uncover the ridiculousness of judgment in each other.
Oh, there's so much judgment in the media. I'm gonna say in the media.
Well, it's
It's
purposefully controlled, obviously.
right
It's
because they're creating the
stupid.
fear and all of the things that are keeping people all. But this whole reactionary piece is really important because if you watch the news or you are with a group of people, it's so interesting how people can be triggered instantly into what they believe.
Oh yeah.
Um, and but the reactions turn into very like you feel that energy of like we talked about before. I mean that anger, but it's laced with fear. It's you know, no control. Like
Anyone that has to defend that hard is terrified.
terrified.
Anyone that has to defend something of their belief system that hard to the public to get affirmations that they're right is actually terrified. And
Yeah.
it's really important for us to see that. We saw Facebook blew up after the opening ceremonies of the confusion of what that artistic expression was of not the Last Supper versus the actual Greek mythology scene. And, the Christian banter on there versus the non-Christian banter on there was the perfect example of how dare they? And we're being attacked. And it's like, seriously, be open to the concept of that you really didn't see what they were even doing. No, hidden in there is this. So I mean, it's just everyone's defending and everybody is still having this purposeful thing to wrap this back again is that because our platforms are being removed,
Hmm.
the platforms that we've had to be able to point fingers are being taken away one after another. And
Hmm.
that's what COVID did.
Yeah.
Our platform when we're a vet is taken away because we got programmed to do something for a bigger service and a bigger call on behalf of the all. But my individual platform was like, holy crap, that just got taken away. And what do I do? How do I get that platform back when I come back into society? And do I
Right.
even have a platform anymore?
Right.
I mean,
Which
it's
is very
all,
scary. That is terrifying.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very, oh my gosh.
So the
Wow.
bottom line is that this is a bigger movement in terms of universal law, the most important one being the law of one, meaning we're remembering we're all one.
Hmm.
And people are still not getting that for anything. Number
Mm-mm.
two, one that is so critical is cause and effect, meaning karmic return. I am responsible for my actions, period.
Yeah.
You're not. I am. And
Yep.
so, and I don't have to make someone be responsible for your actions. I mean, that's where all this judgment comes in. So these universal laws are going to become more and more apparent. The other universal law that's playing out incredibly is the law of duality and polarity. There has to be a this and a that. There has to be a this and a that, and they're not any different. So transcending judgment is really becoming clear.
Mm-hmm.
So polarity and genders are really clear. Male energy, female energy. Is that in a
Mm-hmm.
female body or a male body? All that stuff that's playing out is offending people so much if they are scared of that universal law. And it's really interesting to watch. But these will come forward because that's what our hologram is made out of. We
Right.
just have never
Right.
known it, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, again, who talks about this?
I
You
think
know,
it's fun.
in casual conversation, okay, like we do, we have people
Yeah.
that talk about it, but when you're in, out socially, it
Yeah.
doesn't get talked about.
Oh God, we were out socially somewhere the other day and people were gleaning off our conversation next to the table and they were just like this. It was really funny. We didn't care. It was pretty funny. One of these things, you know.
What
So
are they talking about? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, in the long run, I would encourage anyone that is interested in learning more, further about this, go on our YouTube channel in a bigger way and find the old Confident Empath I think it's almost close to 2 hours one that I did in
Mhm.
terms of what that book is and see if that rings your bell. And then if it does, if you choose to buy the book, great, it's on everywhere. But I think that that skill set is going to be very critically needed now. And I just, like I said, this last week, the light bulb went on all these commonalities and it's like, holy moly, this post stuff is really post stuff is becoming real now. It
Yeah.
isn't post stress or post it's now. This is
Yeah.
when people are starting to fall to pieces. So do something about it. Don't let it fester.
Yeah. And
Right.
I think that your how you just took this and made it so much bigger in understanding what's happening, because PTSD is not just vets, it's not just COVID.
Oh,
It could be a relationship, it could be growing up,
yep.
where COVID allowed you that time to really dig into yourself potentially. But how you're making that, like when we talk about being one, universally one, um, we have a lot of work to do. How many years do we have left? Like, it's like we have a lot of work to do, people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because judgment it's a big deal, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of practice, and there are things that will trigger me, and it takes a little bit to take that step back, because some of those beliefs are still dug in there.
And the most important relationship one wants to have is with themselves and their source self,
Mhm.
meaning this beautiful bones and meat and nerves and cells that we walk around in, we're usually mad at. And, we're too fat, we're too skinny, we're too old, we're too this, I can't move. It is more about, and I'm doing my best at this as well, and I fail miserably just like everybody else periodically, but it is more about being connected to the fact that, whoa, that just didn't settle. That didn't sit with me.
Yep.
Or whoa, that's still in there. Or whoa, I just walked into something where this isn't my safe zone. This is the playing field. This is the thing that is critically the most important relationship to have,
Mhm.
first and foremost, before
Yeah.
anything, because this is your God relationship. And it is really, really critical for us to go inward. And that was the gift of the COVID. That
Yeah.
was the gift. And so, and it's also the gift, and I hate to, and this is probably not going to go over well, but it's the gift of a returning vet as well. Come
Mhm.
back from something that may not have aligned with you at all, or may have aligned partially, or may have aligned a little bit or a lot. Coming back to who am I? Who am I now? What is that? That's a whole experience that turned me into maybe somebody completely different, or did it because it's still me.
Mhm.
These are really ownerships of our fractals of ourself, our fractalizations of everything we were and could be and weren't. And all of that is what's coming disclosure now. And it's really important to honor that transition.
Mhm.
That's the oneness. We're oneness here first, we're before we can be oneness.
Yeah.
And we haven't owned this.
Right. Right, because it goes back to our higher self essence as a oneness. And we look at these bodies like they're the what are going to bring us, it's internal. It's all internal. It's not the physical while we have
Mhm.
to take care of it, I mean, we want to take care of it to get us through because we're here on a beautiful world, Earth, and we should really value that, but we need our bodies to do that.
Yeah.
But what's inside our connection? I mean, that's a whole nother when you start to connect with that and understand more of what you truly, truly believe in your purpose. That starts to change perspective in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
especially being able to be more neutral in conversations, being more neutral in ideologies that you don't totally resonate with, um, but trying to understand that perspective of someone else and not judging it.
And in the book, I write extensively about honoring other people's contracts, honoring other people's choices. And this goes back to the vets again, honoring the fact that I went through possibly, quite potentially, huge amounts of horrific loss
Hmm.
and seeing the depths of the horror of humanity
Hmm.
and our planet being raped and pillaged. And it's very important for me to understand this is also contracts as well. And we're not raised that way. And when I can attach a soul contract to a situation, I can find honor in that versus, victimization and horror on an ongoing basis. I can heal from that and I can heal with that. But that isn't something offered to that group hardly at all. And that's a whole different paradigm to sit with the fact that this is partially a soul contract journey and I can open my head to that. And that's a big, big deal. Same happens for an empath and or a COVID situation. It's a soul contract. You get to live the way you get to live. This is again, karmic return. I get to. And these are really big, powerful things. What's being taken away, like I said, is the platform of judging somebody else or blaming somebody else. I don't get that anymore. This is what's
No.
going to keep going away is the platform of it's your fault.
Hmm.
Even for government, even for everything, it's your
Hmm.
fault. It doesn't work anymore. And it's really coming strong now as self-responsibility. And that's what this stuff, that's how we heal. This is how we heal.
Hmm.
And so it's going to be bigger and bigger.
This is amazing to look at it at such a big, like
Yeah, it's a
just
huge discussion. It's a huge
huge,
discussion. And
huge.
I was just talking with somebody yesterday and, asking because she has some context on how I would like to listen to more stories. And because that gentleman that I spoke with was just, he never thought, and not that I'm right, but I offered different paradigm shifts for him to go, oh, I never
Mm.
looked at it that way, especially with the return of these people into a situation where my family doesn't know me anymore. See, that's not fair. It is still that person. And what we do is we get scared because I don't know them. I don't know them. Oh my God, they're different. They're changed. Oh my God, that threatens me. No, that's not what this is. And so we're starting to see these opportunities to be everything and anything that we could be or didn't want to be. And that's still acceptable. And that's what we don't get.
Hmm.
That's what's this big picture. And that was COVID and vet. It was just astounding to me, the similarities. So
Wow,
yeah, kind of
that's a good
amazing.
one.
Huh?
That's a good one.
Yeah, that
This
was
is
kind of
gonna
like
come up.
that light bulb.
I know, and this will be interesting because I think this is one we can break down even more as we go.
Yeah, I feel like this
Um,
is really the first two, three steps. You could blow this thing up and unleash it 1,000 times more. But
yeah,
I encourage comments on this one. This is a tough subject. I encourage comments. I would love to hear from people. I think this is something that will be in my own personal pathway. It's been coming stronger and stronger in the last couple of weeks or so. And then I love the way that spirit works because then all of a sudden I get that client and this client, and then I meet that person. And it's like, that's just the way if you learn how to ride the tide of spirit, spirit will bring you the avenue. And it's pretty apparent that this is a need out there. And I honor that and heed that call in any way. So if anyone has any great suggestions or thoughts on that, please share and feel
yeah, that
free
would be
to reach out.
great for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
All right. Well, on behalf of Kim and I, thanks for hanging in there. Take what resonates, toss anything that doesn't, maybe hit the subscribe button, the share button, and the like button, because that helps us as far as being there for you in the future. So until next, everybody, cosmic hugs.
goodbye.